And that's also how I discovered like the power of this instrument, the most sociable instrument ever.
Welcome everyone to the Augustine Strings Wind Up. If you haven't followed or subscribed or pressed like button, please do it now. And we're here for a very nice and fun conversation with João Luiz, who is a friend, an idol, a chamber music partner, teacher, mentor, everything you can name. The whole idea of this project is we're gonna switch strings together. So João will change his guitar strings, and I want to invite you all to grab your guitar and change your guitar strings with us. João, for every string that you change, there will be a different topic. So for the first string, E string, we're gonna talk about just an entrance, just how you change your strings. Second string, B, we're gonna talk about beginnings. Third string, G, we're gonna talk about the gear, your instrument, the guitar. Fourth string, we're gonna talk about dreams and aspirations. Fifth string, A string, we actually ask artificial intelligence to bring some fun questions for you. And then the sixth string, another E. My name is Edu with an E. So this is the string that I can ask whatever I want. And I'm a very curious person, so be prepared. So my name is Edu Gutterres. I'm a Brazilian guitarist, also an Augustine Strings artist, and I'm very happy to be the host for this series of conversations and interviews. João, welcome, and I hope you have a lot of fun today.
Oh, I'm sure I will. Well, this is so great to be with you, with the Augustine team. So it's just going to be phenomenal. Yeah.
Okay, first, before we start, can you tell us a little bit about this big project that you're doing now with Sergio Abreu, the composer, Brazilian composer?
Sure. Well, Sergio is one of my greatest heroes, right? For every Brazilian guitarist, so we all know the Assad brothers, and also like Sergio's role as composer, arranger. So it's a huge honor to have some sort of collaboration with Sergio, and I was so fortunate to work with Sergio on the creation of this 24 studies for solo guitar, which I consider another landmark in the guitar repertoire, pretty much like Villalobos, you know? It's an incredible set of 24 studies worth almost like 2 hours of music. And I'm so glad I'm almost done with the recording. I go up to Canada in Toronto to record with Norbert Kraft, the great Norbert Kraft. We're halfway through. But it's such an honor to have this music dedicated to me, but also I have the opportunity to work with Sergio. So he's been my mentor. Every time I learn a new study, so we go through it together. So he's been mentoring me on that, and that's kind of like, it's really amazing.
And also we know that Sergio is Brazilian and he works a lot with bringing the Brazilian popular genres to the solo guitar world. How does he organize the studies? You said that there are 24?
24. So basically, the idea to have like something written for me by Sergio started before the pandemic. But now more specific about the study. So we started with 12. And Sergio, he was really into it from like the very beginning. And as he was writing or having ideas, he was like, even like, pieces were not like finished, but he had, let's say, 12 measures of like one study. He would send to me and say, "Whoa, what do you think of this?" You know, I was thinking, yeah, but you're the great Sergio. Why are you asking me? But he really wanted to work, like to write something that would suit my playing. But then we started with 12. As he was writing, he was getting really excited and happy with the results. So he said, "Well, João, is that okay if I write you 15?" Then I said, "Well, Sergio, yes, let's make it 24." Yeah. But what he does in terms of like the content for the project, he's really surveying 100 years of like the great Brazilian music, the great Brazilian catalog, classical and popular. And since like each study, it pays homage to a composer, guitarist or not, but pretty much like composers who somehow are connected to guitar.
Nice.
Not necessarily guitar composers, but it's a pretty ambitious project because it covers a lot of ground.
As most of the Brazilians we know, you use which Augustine strings?
Regal Blue. Yeah. Well, also because of spruce guitar, pretty much like modeled after like Hauser, right? Senior. And from what I understand from my great masters in Brazil, Henrique Pinto, my great like teacher and mentor, and also the guitar maker Sergio Abreu, who was one of the greatest guitarists. They both like kind of like always like kind of like taught me that when you play in this kind of spruce traditional guitar, the bass string, kind of like they said the only string, but the bass string was Augustine Regal Blue. And that's what I've been using since I was 13.
João, as I said, is one of my idols. You know, one of the first classical guitar videos I watched on YouTube was you and Douglas, Brazil guitar duo, playing Bate Coxa by Marco Pereira.
Actually, Marco wrote the two guitar version for us. He wrote that version, dedicated to us. Yeah.
You and Douglas played together for a long time, right?
More than 25 years.
And one thing I don't know exactly which year, but you guys won the Concert Artists Guild, right? Which is a very important competition here.
2006.
2006 here in the United States. Can you explain how this competition works and how was it for you?
Well, it really kind of like, it really opened the door for our like international career, because like up to that point we were kind of like, we had a name, we had some sort of career in Brazil.
Was the name Brazil
locally.
Guitar Duo?
Brazil Guitar Duo.
Since the beginning?
Well, no, the name, it was not. Again, we used to be called João Luiz and Douglas Laura. But as you probably know, João, J-O-A-O with a tilde on the A, it's very hard, it's awkward to pronounce in this country. And it was a pretty long name. And also, I personally think that it didn't have the best sound here in the United States. So they needed a brand, a name they could brand, you know, they could sell. We won Concert Artists Guild. Guess what? They changed the name. Yeah.
Moving on to the next string, since we're talking about Brazil Guitar Duo, I want to know about how you started playing the guitar. So you and Douglas started playing at a very young age.
Well, Douglas younger than me, but I started with music when I was 8, playing the trumpet. I was a trumpet player. And I really started playing the guitar out of frustration with my trumpet playing, because my dad
play chords.
Well, yeah, I'll tell the whole story, and it's pretty interesting. It makes sense. Trumpet is a very, very hard instrument, you know. And when you're young, especially when you're starting on that instrument, you play a lot of scales. You keep blowing forever. Well, not forever. You cannot practice like guitar people do for hours because of the embouchure. But you practice like scales for a long time just to get the notes, you know. And it's hard. It was a hard thing for me to do as an 8-year-old boy, and seeing all of my friends playing, hanging out with the girls, playing soccer and just like playing and singing like along, having fun. And that's also how I discovered like the power of this instrument, the most sociable instrument ever. And also one of the few instruments that kind of like is the bridge to many different styles and cultures. So that's the greatest like musical tool we have, you know. And then I want to play that.
So you mentioned all your friends were hanging out and playing soccer. I want to know what would you do when you were a kid?
Well, I played
instead of blowing scales on the trumpet. In addition to blowing scales.
I love to listen to music. Like, I think part of the big reason I think why I became a musician, there are two reasons. First, my parents, the encouragement and support, constant support of my parents. But again, they don't play instruments, you know. But they listen to great music, and they always had like incredible parties in our house in São Paulo with live music, people coming and playing choro and samba and singing, a lot of like great music. And my dad is a huge fan of jazz. So
I want to make a parenthesis. You mentioned choro and samba. Can you explain just for our friends watching the video what choro and samba are?
So this is kind of like a samba kind of like pattern. And then you have choro, which is like something. Well, I don't have all the strings.
So
obviously,
the
but
Brazilian street music.
It's the great Brazilian popular music. And again, when we talk about samba, we're talking about something that is prior to the internationally known bossa nova, right? And choro it's what I would say, like it's kind of like our Brazilian jazz.
We can also match this information with your beginnings, right?
Oh, totally. That was the kind of music when I started. Well, even when I didn't play an instrument, that was the type of music that was being played in my house by family members singing, or even other like people coming to play that kind of music. So that was what formed my taste for music, you know.
And Sergio Abreu is the maker of this guitar you have, Brazilian maker. Can you tell us a little bit about him, Sergio Abreu? I know you had a very close relationship with him.
Yeah, still
about his instruments.
Well, I started college when I was 16, and my parents came. I think I was 15 or 16. Came to my teacher in Henrique Pinto and said, "Well, we have this money set aside for João. We don't know. Well, we were thinking about like buying him a car, but he mentioned he might need a guitar." And then my teacher said, "Well, there's this guitar, and then this whole thing about getting like an Abreu." And I know that I was having lessons with my teacher, and I didn't have a great instrument. But every time in the lesson, I would play on an Abreu guitar because, again, Henrique Pinto, my former teacher, had, I don't know, 15 Abreus. So he would let his students play on that guitar, you know. Also, so that's how you learn, like, how to kind of like get a good sound, you know. So I knew about Abreu guitars, and then my parents came, and I got my first guitar in 1997.
When I was born.
Wow, man. Yeah, you see, that was my first, and I own 7 guitars by Sergio. Almost like every decade of his like construction, like guitar building career, I have a guitar that, with the exception of the very first one, 1987, all of the guitars after that guitar were made specially for me.
Amazing.
So just so you see, I really had like long, many years, like an incredible relationship with Sergio as a friend, as a mentor, you know, and really like would advise me on like composition. If I was thinking about putting together like a program, I would like talk to Sergio, you know.
You mentioned you have 7 Abreus. Which one is this?
This one is number 3. And what is special about this one, as I said, the very first, my oldest Abreu 1987, I wasn't playing the guitar at that time, so I bought it from my former teacher. Was not made for me. But then the 1997 one was made for me, but also Sergio didn't know much about my playing. With this one was the first one that he really made, he was my tailor. At that time, he had like seen me playing like a lot. He had a pretty good idea of what I needed as a player. Why I think this guitar is so special is because not only he kind of like is a reflection of how he saw me as a player, but also I think he masterfully did a couple of things that I asked him that I wasn't happy about my sound, because I think my sound was always very bright, too bright. And I wanted him to compensate that. And he did beautifully. And this guitar has like an incredible sustain. It's a little bit darker than my other guitars. And also it's an instrument that I recorded, I think the Brouwer Complete Works for 2 guitars, some of the Gismonti album, the album that was nominated for the Grammy with the concertos by Brouwer and Bellinacci. So I've been using these instruments. It became my main concert instrument from 2008, when this was born, up to 2017, when he made like the next one.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about dreams, and I know you do many things, many amazing things, and I wanna try to ask you about dreams related to all of these things that you do. But the first one I wanna ask is, so you have 2 kids, right?
3.
3 kids, yeah, 2 here and 1 in Brazil.
18-year-old and who just graduated high school, yes.
Nice.
And then my 2 boys who live with me.
Yeah, now as a dad, what are your dreams related to your family? Tough question.
It is tough, but I think I don't know if it's a dream, but I just hope to be able to always be next to them. So we're a very tight family. My wife, Kirsten, and myself and the boys, Pedro and Arden. We're very tight. And I just hope to continue to be present, always there for them, you know.
Now, as a teacher, I know you teach. Can you tell us where you teach? Stony Brook?
Well, I'm a director of chamber music and head of guitar at Hunter College, and also teach guitar and chamber music at Stony Brook. And I do some teaching also at Menace College. So, of the many hats I wear, I think teaching is where my heart is, you know. It always was. Also, I'm kind of like, again, bringing up my great mentor, my teacher, Henrique Pinto, because he taught me how to love the instrument, you know, and to love music. But every time, every lesson with Henrique was like, he showed me like so much love for what he was doing and for the instrument, you know. It was very hard not to be moved with that.
And
it was really
this going.
Yes, I kind of like made that kind of like my mission, because I that's the part of me as a musician that I enjoy the most. And of course I like to play. I play all the time. Composing is like being a big part of what I do lately, but I think teaching will always be my favorite thing.
And my last one about dreams, I want to ask, a dream as a composer. Do you have anything that, I really want to work for this instrument or for that instrument that you never did? And then we're going to move on to the next string.
Wow, I did something that was very cool. Fortunately, I write for many, I don't write only for guitar. I have been writing a lot for other instruments too. But I did something, talking about dreams. I always had a dream to write something of my own for voice and guitar.
Oh.
Because I love working with voice.
Portuguese.
I think guitarists who realize that playing with like a vocalist is so important. They will understand that they will learn so much about music. They're gonna become a better musician just by playing with a vocalist, I think, in my experience. But anyway, so I never had the opportunity to write something, my own composition for voice and guitar, which I did last year. It was commissioned by an incredible duo based in Germany called Duo Amaris. And I wrote a piece for mezzo-soprano and guitar called Tell Them. And it was so well received in Germany. I was really like happy, you know. So that was a dream. I wanted to write like something substantial for voice and guitar, and I did.
That's
but
cool.
like talking about like future projects, I want to write a concerto for percussion and orchestra, because I play a little
Which
percussion.
instrument?
Well, maybe for like a set of like different instruments,
okay.
but mainly marimba, and also a concerto for harpsichord.
Ooh. Fifth string. What are some of the unique challenges and rewards of being a soloist compared to performing as part of an ensemble, or interchangeable? You know, challenges and rewards for both.
Oh, just trying. Well, it's a very interesting question because I do both. But one thing that I noticed, it has more to do with repertoire, and I'll give you an example. When you do a lot of guitar duets, you play like in a professional guitar duo, so your range in terms of repertoire and possibilities is this much big. Whereas like solo guitar, and again, the repertoire for solo guitar is incredible, but you're kind of like, there are more limits. I'll be more specific. So there are chords that I like to play. I play a little bit of piano. When I write, I hear certain chords, certain harmonies that don't exist in solo guitar. When you play in a duo, so you start, that's part of your music making, you know. That's one challenge, because you get used to that. Oh, in two guitars you can like play with all those basses, counterpoint, like polyphony, you know, you name it. It's almost like it's a keyboard instrument in a way, right? It can be, but it can also be orchestra. But yeah, so this is one thing. I think it's more, for me, the adjustment is really more in terms of like your expectations, your artistic expectations regarding repertoire.
And what about stage?
Also, well, very different. But here's the thing, I always thought, well, even though I love to play with Douglas, with you guys, and you get used to having another person, and it's about trust, you know? And I think it's just more fun to have somebody else to play with.
To travel with too.
Everything, right? It's less selfish. And I like that. And also, the reason why I love teaching so much, because it's something that I don't do for myself, I do for the other person. So I like that. I prefer that. But playing solo is really on you, but with one advantage. So you do your way. And also, I know from my solo experiences, I think I can get to perfect the playing easily, because it's just up to me. Oh, I have to practice really a lot. I do it.
Yeah.
So you know this, when you have
Makes
to
sense.
logistics with like all rehearsals, or even like the person being on that zone of, okay, let's transcend. So you don't always get that. And I think these days it's hard. It gets harder and harder.
Last string.
Oh.
So these are my questions. And I remember since I met you and you told me so many stories, and you know how curious I am with everything, I wanted to share stories with artists that you collaborated with. And the first one I want to ask is Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist. Can you share the experience of playing with him? And when was it? And
Oh
how
yes,
was it?
I think it would be redundant to talk about from the music perspective, but just like in the human level, it was just amazing, you know, just to be in his presence, you know. There's something about him as a person that even when he's not like saying anything, just he's next to you, there's an energy so positive, so beautiful, you know. And then so when it's about music, then just to give you like an example, we're on a rehearsal preparing like to go, because we performed together in Cuba.
Yo-Yo Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma, Carlos Prieto, Douglas and I, we premiered like a sonata that Brouwer wrote for this ensemble, 2 guitars and 2 cellos.
Carlos Prieto.
Carlos Prieto, great, amazing, incredible cellist. And it's funny, so you see like the generosity, like the human like part, you know, aspect of like this great musician, Yo-Yo Ma. He was asking us questions all the time as if he didn't know what to do, you know. And it was very genuine. He was not pretending, oh, you know, to be nice. You know, it came from like the very honest place.
João, you know, I'm such a big fan, and you're one of my idols.
Wow.
And I wish we could stay here
Same.
for a whole day.
I know.
I know
We
you're
will
finishing.
one day.
We will. We will do a live stream with João Luiz, 5 hours.
Oh yeah, I know.
I just wanted to thank everyone for being here. João is about to finish his last string. It was such a pleasure for me. I'm so happy to have you
My
here.
pleasure, my pleasure.
And the last thing I want to know is, what will those strings be used for? Practice, rehearsal, performance?
Oh, everything. As I said before, I cannot talk, I don't have experience with other strings. So I've been using Augustine strings in all of my instruments, all of my recordings, all of my concerts. So that's the only string I play, period, you know? Yeah,
Can you give us an arpeggio here?
Okay, but it should be in tune. What doesn't have
No,
to be in
that's
tune because
exactly,
it's nice. That's
that's
another
what I
thing,
wanna
another
hear.
topic, maybe for another conversation. We should retune the instrument more because it's gonna open other doors. We're so stuck to one, like we always enter through the same door, you know?
Let me hear it. Thank you, João.
Very welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Very patient people.
Stay tuned for the next episode. Augustine Strings Wind Up.